Hello YouTube and people of the interwebs, welcome back to another video. 3 years ago on this very day, something happened. Something quite big happened. So astronomically big that the Doctor Who fanbase will probably never recover. Jodie Whittaker was announced as the 13th and first female Doctor. Big move, mind-blowing move. I mean, you can see my little younger self's reaction to it here.
What?
It's fine.
Oh my gosh.
Jodie Whittaker.
That's actually quite cool. She looks like she could be the Doctor.
She does.
It was genuinely, wow, a female Doctor. Now, I don't think I even need to start this video by addressing the question of, does a female Doctor even work? Yes, a female Doctor works, undoubtedly. Like, you can't say it doesn't. Even if you don't think Jodie Whittaker is the perfect actress to play the Doctor, we've had Jo Martin now, we've had Jodie Whittaker, and both of them have delivered, like, stellar performances as this character. Yeah, a female Doctor works, that's not debatable. Well, I mean, everything is technically debatable, so I'll shut up. This big decision, as the 7th Doctor would say, created ripples.
The ripples merge, rebound off the banks in unforeseeable ways.
Which created more ripples and ripples. Basically, yeah, division in the fan base. I would say it split the fandom in two, but I think that's a disservice to what actually happened. It sort of splintered off into thousands and thousands of ripples. However, there are sort of two main categories. It is basically like Anakin from Revenge of the Sith.
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
Only a not my Doctor deals in absolute. But yet, there is this constant feeling of you have to love the Chibnall era or you have to absolutely hate it. Quite often, you can't just, as I sort of do, rest in the middle. Now, I'd probably say I'm more towards the liking it side. Series 11 wasn't exactly my cup of tea, but I did genuinely love Series 12. But I think it is this main division of you're either with me or you're against me that really tears the fandom into tiny little pieces. It's almost like a mob mentality because you have to categorise yourself into one of the groups, whereas most people, I'd assume, and most people that I talk to sort of fall into my category of, yeah, they like it, it's just Doctor Who. They don't absolutely love it, they don't absolutely hate it. Everyone has their favourite era, and that's fair enough. I'm going to quickly run down like the three sort of what I'd call
Problematic.
I hate that word, but I mean, it works. This isn't in any particular order, these are just the sort of groups which are really sort of screwing the fandom over. Number one, this is the sort of least amount of people, I think, but there are a group of them out there who can just see no wrong in Chibnall or Jodie. They don't actually particularly care about the contents of what happens, but they'll defend it to their last breath. They'll keep going saying it's the perfect thing and you can't insult Jodie Whittaker, you can't critique this, otherwise you're not my Doctor and nah. When in reality, as I said earlier, you can just rest in the middle. You can genuinely critique it and that's completely fair enough. You can genuinely love it, that's also fair enough. But yeah, to the people out there who genuinely believe that if you don't like this iteration of the show, you are a bigot, just stop doing it. I don't even know if you realise you're doing it, but it's not a healthy mentality and it doesn't help anyone. Equally though, we have the other side where Chibnall can't do anything right. Everything he does is wrong and is bad and is evil and is Dr. Karen and Dr. Nasty. Genuinely, I cannot comprehend why people actually use that as like a critique of the show. We're not 9 years old. You can't just say Dr. Nasty as a genuine review of a both sides need to chill and just find the middle ground. Just treat it as a TV show. Treat it as Doctor Who. It's not this war ground, it's a show. People can like it, people can dislike it, and that's completely fair enough. Now, there is also a third category that I'd sort of say, these are the sort of fans who are fans, but not like mega fans. And I'm not saying that in like a demeaning way, like
they're not as big a fan of me because I have glass cabinets of Doctor Who stuff.
not saying it like that. I mean, they genuinely don't like the show as much as like the insane people like myself. And these people I can kind of class as the...
It's not David Tennant or Matt Smith anymore, so it's not very good.
Like, they just don't watch it anymore because, quite honestly, they weren't really a fan of Doctor Who. They were a fan of, like, David Tennant and Matt Smith. So, yeah, that group can just be gone. Now, I'm going to try and address and sort of respond to some of the main critiques that the current era always gets, which I genuinely think are just completely flawed and stupid. Stupid's probably quite harsh, but I mean, it works. Number 1.
Doctor Who's too political now.
Well, yes, but actually no. I mean, when you look at it, Doctor Who has always been political. Now, I've said this in a previous video, and I get comments like, Doctor Who has always been very moral, not political. No, it hasn't. It has always been really quite political. Just genuinely, go back to like the Pertwee era. There's so much politics in it. I mean, people always complain that Arachnids in the UK is basically a rip-off of the Pertwee story, The Green Death, except you replace the giant maggots for giant spiders. It's the same story. This radioactive stuff has made these giant animals and evilness and stop pollution, except no one tried to cancel John Pertwee, did they?
Show us your tits and I'll tell you.
No one was like, hashtag not my doctor, no, he's bad because he's saying that you should save the environment? Because quite frankly, that doesn't really make any sense. Yet, for some reason, in the current climate, when Doctor Who does pretty much the same plot as it did like 50 years ago, people are going mad saying, this is not Doctor Who's never been political, etc. I mean, even if you just go to series 1 of Doctor Who, like the Slitheen 2-parter, if you were to have that sort of story in the modern day, people will go insane, it's too political, blah 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 blah. Like, the whole Slitheen thing is like politicians talking out of their...
Ask not.
Censored that. And it's got the whole weapons of mass destruction thing, which is like a direct play off the politics of the time.
Have found massive weapons of destruction.
He's making it up. There's no weapons up there, there's no threat. He just invented it.
Do you think they'll believe him? What he did last time?
Not only this, but if you look at episodes like The Long Game, episode 5 of series 1, it's all about fake news and how misinformation can slow down the progress of humanity. Yet, if you had that fake news story in a current series of Doctor Who, everyone would hit the roof and go mad because, it's politics and you can't do politics in Doctor Who. Now, I'm not going to say this criticism is entirely wrong because there are moments, like in Orphan 55, where the politics genuinely damage the story. They properly slow it down to a halt and whack you over the head with a damn space Greta Thunberg!
Unless people face facts and change, catastrophe is coming.
Shut up! No one actually cares! Oh my god. It's been crap for 100 years.
We need to conserve energy! Quick! Turn off everything! Turn it on!
But honestly, I think Orphan 55 is the only terribly handled example. Episodes like Praxeus deliver the, like, plastics are bad, etc. message in a fine way. Like, they're not too on the nose. Not any more so than Doctor Who has always been, anyway. Even like the most praised Doctor of all time, David Tennant, he has stories like Planet of the Ood, which is literally just about slavery and how, like, the British Empire, etc. profited off this horrific event. Yet, once again, if you had that in the modern day, everyone would go insane. Even just people like Captain Jack as a character, Series 1, he is so openly gay, etc. And that is completely fine. There's no problem with it, and no one has a problem with it. Yet, when Bill comes along and says that she's gay in a few episodes, People hit the fan and go insane. Why is there a double standard? Why can Captain Jack be a fine and okay character who's not agenda pushing, yet Bill is apparently agenda pushing? She's not agenda pushing. It's not agenda pushing to represent a gay person in media. Nor is it agenda pushing to have any non-white male in any leading role. It's just a role in a TV show. Representation is incredibly important, but that is not the topic of today's video. Also, a comment that I see a lot on both my channel and all other Doctor Who channels, which genuinely is just dumb, is,
"Oh, good lord, a woman doctor. Oh, what will happen next? Oh, the next doctor must be a wheelchair-bound, disabled lesbian, blah."
And then they just add a bunch of different marginalised groups onto the end of it, as if that's making some sort of intellectual and fair point. When in reality, it's just childish. Why, there's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes? Not now, bad impersonation of Tom Baker. Not now. There's not really much to say on that point. Just stop. It's a dead meme. It's a dead joke, and, you know, stop. Now, what I'm about to say is probably going to be like sacrilege to many of you, and there is going to be a witch hunt after this. But look at classic Doctor Who, and look at the Chibnall era, because quite honestly, I genuinely think that the Chibnall era is basically classic Doctor Who, but with a bigger budget. It's basically new classic Who. Now, what do I mean by this? Because that doesn't really make sense on its own. New Who is a very distinctive style, and it's very different to the way of classic Doctor Who. Even just the Doctor as a character is incredibly different to his classic Who counterpart. Jodie's Doctor fits into the classic era quite well, actually, and I mean, so do the companions. Even if you look at the first ever series of the show, all the way back to 1963, we have the Doctor, an alien who didn't have much of a bond with his three companions. You had three companions, two of whom were from contemporary Earth. It kind of is the same thing, even more so when you look at probably my favourite era of classic Who, the Peter Davison era. You have a young blonde Doctor who once again doesn't have a massive relationship or any romantic connection to their companions. You then have three companions. Now, yeah, you have Adric and Turlough who kind of switch places, but yeah. Now, I want to preface this with, I absolutely love classic Who and the Chibnall era, and this isn't meant to, like, diminish them, but it's just the way it is. They didn't have massive character arcs and massive character development. The closest we got was Turlough and the Black Guardian, but I mean, the other characters sort of just came and went, and it's very similar to how Chibnall writes Graham, Ryan and Yaz. They stick around for the episode. There's probably one too many of them to properly develop throughout the course of a series. Is that really a problem? Because a lot of the people who complain at Chibnall's era adore classic Who. But they're the same thing. Even as I say, like, Arachnids in the UK is a retelling of a classic Who story. The Chibnall era is closer to classic Who than New Who is to classic Who. And yes, you can make the fair argument of classic Who was a product of its time, and at the time you didn't have all this character dynamics and stuff, but still, if you can love and enjoy classic companions who never really got that much development and just sort of came and went, then what's stopping you from enjoying the presence of Graham, Ryan and Yaz? Obviously, they do have bits of character, like Graham and Ryan, whole grandfather arc, and Yaz as a police officer, that sort of thing. But it's not the focus of the story, and that's not the style Chibnall goes for. Russell T Davies was very, very heavily character focused. This interpretation of the show takes a more classic approach of exploring the sci-fi and the messaging of the episode rather than the characters, and that's not explicitly a bad thing. You're well within your right to say you don't like that as much as the character side of things, which is completely fair enough, because that's a genuine critique, that's a genuine opinion. All I'm saying is, don't have the double standard of classic Who's perfect, but Chibnall's Who isn't, because they are very, very similar. Also, it's not like all of these Chibnall ideas are completely shockingly new and have never been talked about before. Like the Cartmel master plan thing, the Doctor, the 7th Doctor, way back, was originally supposed to be the Other. Now, that isn't too dissimilar to the Timeless Child arc. The Doctor created Gallifrey, blah, 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 all that stuff. And Sidney Newman, back in the Tom Baker era, suggested to the BBC that they should have a female Doctor. Even the Morbius Doctors, all of these things, they aren't strictly new ideas. They've been around for a long time. They are not just things to push an agenda, so don't believe the people who say that. Also, another note I thought of while editing the video, the first Doctor's character in Twice Upon a Time is always complained about as being too caricature, too sexist, and making these sexist jokes.
The whole place could do with a good dusting. Obviously, Polly isn't around anymore.
Please, stop saying things like that.
Yet, the 5 Doctors does the exact same thing with Richard Hurdnall playing the first Doctor.
Now look, young lady, make yourself useful. This young fellow looks as though he needs some refreshment, and I know that Susan and I do too.
Hang on a minute.
Tegan, I'll humour him. You know, I sometimes used to get a little tetchy.
He makes these sexist comments, and the 5th Doctor goes, "Oh, you can't say that anymore." It's the same joke, just retold. If it wasn't agenda pushing then, why is it agenda pushing now? I think that does wrap up today's ramble and rant, etc. So if you did enjoy, remember to like, comment, subscribe. At the end of the day, Doctor Who is a show which is beloved by thousands of people across the globe. And whether you love it, whether you hate it, whether you enjoy the Chibnall era or not, just as the 12th Doctor says, be kind, just be kind. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Goodbye.
Don't forget to click below.
Subscribe to the confused Adipose.